Listen to me with your heart for a moment. If you've ever whispered there has to be more than this, that whisper was not weakness. It was a calling. Deep inside you, before fear learned your name, you were designed to think bigger, believe deeper, and expect greater. The $1 million mindset is not about money first. It's about vision. Because before anything shows up in your hands, it must settle in your spirit. This mindset begins when you stop agreeing with limitation. You were never meant to survive paycheck to paycheck in your thoughts. Poverty is loud, but faith speaks with quiet authority. When you renew your mind, you give permission for abundance to move toward you. You stop asking if increase is possible and start declaring when. Your thoughts become seeds, and what you water daily is what eventually grows. The $1 million mindset also understands alignment. You don't chase money, you become the kind of person money follows. Discipline replaces excuses. Gratitude replaces desperation. You think in terms of value, service, and impact. And suddenly opportunities recognize you. Doors open not because you begged, but because you were ready. Most people wait for money to change their mindset. Champions change their mindset and watch money respond. You speak life over your future. You refuse small thinking. You expect favor, wisdom, and increase. And when setbacks come, and they will, you don't retreat. You rise. 'Cause $1 million mindset knows this truth. What's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. Today, decide, not someday. Today, think higher, speak bolder, believe deeper. Your mindset is catching up to your destiny. Before anything changes around you, something must shift within you. Long before doors open in the natural world, they are unlocked in the unseen place of thought. Every future you will ever walk into, first ask permission through your thinking. The limits you tolerate in your mind quietly become the borders of your life. That is why battles are rarely lost because of lack of talent, opportunity, or effort. They are lost because of agreement with small thought. When you think small, you unknowingly give small instructions to your future. But when your thinking expands, your future begins to stretch with it. Thoughts are not harmless ideas drifting through the mind. They are blueprints. What you repeatedly think, you eventually build. The mind is a doorway, and every belief is a key. Fear locks doors, faith opens them. If you constantly rehearse defeat, your future will reflect hesitation. But when you begin to see possibility where others see barriers, you activate movement. Your thinking is not just reacting to life, it is shaping what life is allowed to bring you. Most people live on the wrong side of their own doorway. They stand at the entrance of opportunity but refuse to walk through because their thinking keeps telling them who they are not, what they cannot do, and why it won't work. The tragedy is not failure, it is never attempting, because the mind vetoed the dream. Your thinking either invites growth or repels it. When you believe increase is for others but not for you, your future lists. When you constantly say, that's not realistic, you unknowingly cancel doors that were already preparing to open. Life responds to expectation. If your expectation is survival, you will master surviving. If your expectation is growth, your decisions begin to change. You choose differently, speak differently, and respond differently. Thinking is not passive, it is directional. It points your life somewhere, even when you're unaware of it. You consistently think about money, success, worth, and purpose quietly sets the ceiling of your tomorrow. Your thinking also determines what you recognize when opportunity shows up. Many doors don't look impressive at first glance. They appear as responsibility, stretching moments, uncomfortable growth, or unfamiliar territory. A limited mind sees inconvenience. An expanded mind sees invitation. If your thinking is trained only to notice risk, you will miss reward. If your thinking is trained only to see obstacles, you will overlook access. This is why two people can stand in the same moment and walk away with completely different futures. One sees impossibility, the other sees potential. The difference is not intelligence, it is interpretation. Your mind decides what something means before you ever act on it. That meaning determines whether you move forward or stay stuck. When your thinking matures, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if this is the door I've been praying for?" That shift alone changes how you step. What you allow to dominate your thinking eventually demands expression in your life. Repeated thoughts become convictions, and convictions become decisions. Decisions are the hinges on which doors swing open or shut. If your thinking is filled with doubt, your decisions will always hesitate. If your thinking is filled with faith, your decisions will carry authority. This is why renewing the mind is not optional. It is essential. Old thinking cannot lead you into new places. You cannot think yesterday's thoughts and expect tomorrow's results. Every new level requires a new way of seeing yourself, your resources, and your potential. When your thinking changes, you stop waiting for permission. You stop shrinking in rooms you were meant to lead. You stop disqualifying yourself before life ever does. Your future responds to confidence long before it responds to credentials. The doorway of your future does not open with luck, it opens with alignment. When your thinking aligns with growth, discipline, and expectation, your actions naturally follow. You begin to prepare for things you once only hoped for. You speak differently about yourself. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You understand that abundance begins as an internal agreement before it becomes an external reality. The future is not something you stumble into, it is something you step into consciously. And every step begins in the mind. What you think today is quietly shaping the invitations, encounters, and opportunities of tomorrow. Your thinking decides whether doors look intimidating or inviting, whether challenges look threatening or transformational. The doorway has always been there. The question has never been whether opportunity exists, but whether your thinking is ready to walk through it. Fear is never silent. It whispers worst-case scenarios, replays past failures, and magnifies every unknown until it feels overwhelming. Fear speaks in urgency and demands agreement, but it has no real authority unless you give it one. Faith, on the other hand, does not shout in panic. It speaks with calm conviction. It does not deny the presence of obstacles, but it refuses to let them define the outcome. When faith speaks louder than fear, the mind stops negotiating with doubt and starts standing on belief. Every step forward in life requires this internal exchange of voices. Fear says, "What if it doesn't work?" Faith responds, "What if it does?" The future listens to whichever voice you empower. Fear thrives on silence from faith, but the moment faith finds expression through words, thoughts, and actions, fear begins to lose its grip. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move despite it. Most people assume fear must disappear before they can act, but fear rarely leaves on its own, it retreats only when confronted. Faith confronts fear not with emotion but with truth. Fear exaggerates consequences, faith anchors you in purpose. Fear reminds you of everything you lack. Faith reminds you of what has already been placed within you. When you allow fear to dominate your inner dialogue, it begins to script your behavior. You delay, you hesitate, you shrink back from opportunities meant to stretch you. But when faith is given the louder voice, your actions change, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. You move while your hands are still shaking. You speak even when your voice trembles. This is not recklessness. It is courage formed by belief. Faith does not wait for comfort. It responds to calling. The volume of faith is raised through repetition, through choosing belief again and again, until fear no longer controls the narrative. Faith also shapes how you interpret resistance. Fear sees resistance as a warning to stop. Faith sees it as confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. Every meaningful pursuit will challenge you, and fear will always attempt to label challenge as danger. Faith redefines it as growth. When faith speaks louder, setbacks stop feeling like rejection and start feeling like instruction. You learn, adjust, and continue. Fear tells you that failure disqualifies you. Faith tells you that failure refines you. This difference in interpretation determines whether you quit or continue. Many dreams die not because they were impossible, but because fear was allowed to speak uninterrupted. Faith interrupts. It reminds you that progress is rarely comfortable and that expansion often feels unfamiliar. When faith speaks, you stop personalizing delays and start trusting timing. You stop seeing obstacles as verdicts and start seeing them as tests of endurance and trust. You speak out loud often reveals which voice has the louder influence. Fear-based language is filled with hesitation and disclaimers. Faith-filled language carries expectation and resolve. Words are not just expressions, they are declarations of allegiance. When fear speaks through you, it limits your vision. When faith speaks through you, it expands your horizon. This is why speaking matters. Faith grows bolder when it is voiced. Silence allows fear to dominate unchecked, but expression gives faith momentum. Speaking does not mean denying reality. It means choosing which reality will guide your response. When faith speaks louder, your environment may not change immediately, but your posture within it does. You stand differently. You decide differently. You endure differently. Faith gives you staying power when circumstances try to wear you down, and that endurance becomes a bridge to break through. Living with faith louder than fear is a daily practice, not a one-time declaration. Every day presents new opportunities for fear to raise its voice. News, opinions, setbacks, comparisons. Faith must be intentionally amplified through focus, gratitude, and disciplined thinking. You feed faith by what you dwell on and starve fear by refusing to rehearse its stories. Over time, faith becomes your default response. You stop being startled by uncertainty and start expecting guidance. You stop being paralyzed by risk and start trusting wisdom. Faith does not eliminate challenges, it equips you to face them without losing direction. When faith consistently speaks louder, fear no longer drives your decisions, it becomes background noise. Your steps become steadier, your vision clearer, and your resolve stronger, not because fear vanished, but because faith was given the authority to lead. Increase has a rhythm, and when you understand it, you stop running in circles trying to catch what was never meant to be chased. Chasing creates exhaustion, anxiety, and comparison. Alignment creates clarity, peace, and momentum. When people chase increase, they often sacrifice values, rush decisions, and confuse motion with progress. Alignment, however, begins on the inside. It starts when your priorities, habits, and mindset agree with the future you desire. Increase responds to order, not desperation. When your inner life is scattered, the results around you will be unstable. But when your thinking, discipline, and purpose come into agreement, growth begins to move toward you naturally. Alignment removes strain from progress. You stop forcing doors and start recognizing which ones are already opening. Increase is not attracted to panic. It responds to preparation. When you become aligned, opportunities no longer feel random. They feel timely. Alignment also requires honesty about who you are becoming. Many want the rewards of increase without the responsibility that comes with it. True alignment asks difficult questions about character, consistency, and integrity. Increase has weight, and if your foundation is weak, it will collapse under its own pressure. This is why alignment often feels slower than chasing. It involves refining habits, sharpening skills, and correcting internal resistance. While chasing is loud and visible, alignment often happens quietly. It looks like showing up when no one is watching, choosing discipline over comfort, and valuing growth over applause. Alignment reshapes your relationship with time. You stop rushing outcomes and start respecting process. When your daily actions reflect long-term vision, increase recognizes stability. You don't have to announce alignment, its results speak for it. When you are aligned, you stop competing and start contributing. Chasing increase makes you measure yourself against others, breeding insecurity and impatience. Alignment frees you from comparison because you are anchored to purpose, not performance. You understand that your path has its own pace and requirements. Increase flows through value, not imitation. When you align your efforts with service and impact, doors open that competition could never unlock. Alignment shifts your focus from getting to becoming. You become more skilled, more aware, more intentional. This internal growth creates external opportunities. People begin to trust you. Resources begin to find you, not because you demanded them, but because you were prepared to handle them. Alignment teaches you that increase is not just about more, it's about better. Better decisions, better stewardship, better vision. Alignment also influences how you respond to delay. Chasing interprets delay as denial. Alignment sees delay as development. When you are aligned, you understand that timing is not punishment, it is preparation. Increase arrives when capacity meets opportunity. If opportunity comes too early, it can overwhelm. Alignment ensures readiness. Instead of forcing results, you refine systems. Instead of panicking over slow progress, you deepen consistency. This mindset keeps you steady when results are not immediate. You stop making emotional decisions driven by urgency. You become patient without becoming passive. Alignment keeps you engaged without becoming desperate. It teaches you to trust the process while remaining accountable for your growth. This balance protects you from burnout and disappointment. You remain grounded while still expecting expansion. Living in alignment means recognizing that increase is attracted to order, faithfulness, and vision. You don't have to manipulate outcomes when your life is structured for growth. Alignment creates an environment where increase feels safe to land. Your thoughts support your goals. Your habits reinforce your values. Your actions match your words. This coherence becomes a signal. Increase responds to consistency because consistency demonstrates capacity. When you are aligned, you move with intention rather than impulse. You stop reacting to every opportunity and start discerning which ones belong to you. This discernment saves time, energy, and focus. Alignment sharpens perception. You begin to sense when something is off and when something is in flow. Increase follows flow, not force. And as alignment deepens, progress becomes sustainable, not stressful. Someday is the most comfortable delay the mind can create. It feels responsible, patient, even wise, but in truth it is often fear dressed as caution. Someday promises action without demanding courage. Today demands ownership. Every meaningful change in life begins the moment decision replaces intention. Until a decision is made, energy leaks into hesitation, and progress stays theoretical. Deciding today does not mean everything becomes clear. It means movement begins despite uncertainty. Life does not respond to wishes, it responds to choices. When you decide today, you send a signal to your future that you are no longer waiting for permission. The present moment is the only place where power exists. Tomorrow is imagined, yesterday is remembered, but today is where direction is set. A decision made now reshapes priorities instantly. It alters what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you refuse to postpone any longer. Most people believe they are undecided, when in reality they have already decided to delay. Indecision is not neutral, it is a choice that favors comfort over growth. Every time you say later, you reinforce the habit of avoidance. Over time, that habit becomes identity. Deciding today interrupts that pattern. It breaks agreement with excuses and replaces them with intention. Fear loses influence the moment clarity enters the room. You may not know every step, but a decision establishes direction. Direction creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Waiting for perfect conditions keeps you frozen in preparation mode. Conditions rarely become perfect, but courage becomes available the moment you choose. Deciding today shifts responsibility from circumstances to character. You stop asking whether you feel ready and start acting because readiness is built through action. That internal shift changes how you approach challenges, opportunities, and setbacks. Deciding today also simplifies life. When decisions are postponed, mental clutter increases. You carry unfinished choices, unresolved intentions, and uncommitted goals that drain focus and energy. A clear decision removes confusion. It narrows options and sharpens priorities. You begin to recognize what supports your decision and what distracts from it. This clarity brings peace, not pressure. It allows you to invest energy where it matters instead of spreading it thin across endless possibilities. Deciding today means you stop negotiating with distractions. You protect your time because your direction is clear. This clarity affects how you speak, plan, and respond. You stop over-explaining and start executing. Decision creates boundaries, and boundaries protect growth. When you decide, you gain authority over your schedule, your habits, and your attention. There is also power in deciding before emotions agree. Emotions are unreliable leaders. They fluctuate with comfort, fear, and fatigue. Decisions anchored in values and vision outlast emotional swings. When you decide today, you commit, even on days motivation is low. That commitment creates consistency, and consistency compounds results. Small daily actions guided by decision eventually outperform bursts of enthusiasm guided by feeling. Deciding today means you stop waiting to feel inspired and start building discipline. Discipline does not restrict freedom, it creates it. It frees you from the cycle of starting and stopping. When a decision is made, you no longer debate whether to act, you simply follow through. This removes internal resistance and conserves energy for progress. Choosing today reshapes identity. Every decision reinforces who you believe yourself to be. When you consistently decide to act now, you begin to see yourself as decisive, capable, and responsible. This self-perception influences future behavior. You trust yourself more because you keep commitments to yourself. Confidence grows not from success alone, but from integrity with your own decisions. Deciding today builds self-respect. You no longer live in the gap between intention and action. You close that gap with choice. Each decision becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, those votes accumulate into character. The future does not belong to those who intend to act. It belongs to those who decide and move. As we come to this moment, let everything you've heard settle deeply within you. This message was never just about money, success, or a distant dream. It was about alignment, courage, and choice. It was about recognizing that your future responds to what you believe, what you speak, and what you decide today. Your thinking is shaping doors even now. Your faith is learning to rise above fear. Your life is moving into alignment not by force, but by intent. And the moment you choose today over someday, momentum is already released. You were reminded that limitation is not your origin, and fear is not your authority. You don't have to chase what is meant to come through alignment. You don't have to wait until conditions feel perfect to move forward. Growth begins when you stop postponing obedience to what you already know. Each decision you make in faith reshapes your direction. Each disciplined step strengthens your capacity. Each word you speak with belief reinforces your future. Nothing has been wasted. Not the waiting, not the struggle, not the stretching. It has all been preparing you. Let this truth remain with you. Your mindset is not small, your calling is not delayed, and your future is not fragile. What you align with consistently will begin to respond to you naturally. Walk forward with clarity, think higher, speak boldly, stay disciplined, stay faithful. And when fear tries to speak, remember that your faith has a louder voice. When hesitation appears, remember that today is powerful, and when increase comes, and it will, remember that you were prepared for it long before it arrived. Thank you for listening with an open heart. Stay encouraged, stay focused, and stay faithful. God bless you abundantly.